And he's a perfect example because it's almost like this group of people who have felt so rejected by everything. I'm talking about the extreme conservative. We need another term for it. Like, I don't like how liberal and conservative, it's too binary, because I don't even see like the extreme.
That's a woke thing to say.
Yeah, right. Now we're talking.
Yeah, good work, Andrew. Yeah, you see, you fell right into the clutches of that system of ideas.
I know.
It's too non-binary.
They get me.
Yeah.
But I'm ready. Let's do it, man.
All right.
Also, my mom discovered you this week, so she's an absolutely huge fan. And she says hello, and she would be furious if I didn't say hello for her.
What's your mom's name?
Cameron. Sandra Cameron Schulz.
Aha. Well, say hello to her for me. And I'm really impressed that it only took her a week to become a huge fan. It's always good to know that someone's mom likes me.
Yeah. Now, my question to you is, why do you think that those Democrat leaders didn't acknowledge that this was a problem? Do you think they truly didn't think it was a problem based on the data, or do you think that they were also acting in terms of self-preservation?
Well, I think they were much more concerned with 4chan and the conspiratorial right, which they regard as truly rapey, that each individual actor is fundamentally only concerned with not being held accountable for ever making any kind of mistake, which is a hell of a way to live your life. Certainly no way to live your life if you're a comedian or a man, for that matter. Maybe not even a woman, not even.
Yeah.
That should make me popular.
It was an interesting thing for me that, like, they're so scorned by maybe being lied to by the mainstream media or whatever it is, that their personality or identity has almost become the rejection thereof.
Yeah, well, that's always a threat that exists on the conservative side. The left-wingers always accuse the conservatives of being reactionary. And they're reactionary because they keep saying things like, you guys on the left, you're going too far. You got to slow down. You got to stop doing this. You're going too far. And that is reactionary in some sense, because they're always reacting to the excesses of the left. The conservative types tend not to want to change things. And, that can be their downfall too, because sometimes things have to change. Although intelligent conservatives sure know that. God only knows, what might happen on the YouTube front. I know they've demonetized Yeonmi Park many times, the North Korean dissident. And that's because Yeonmi Park objects to North Korea, and you'd think you'd be able to get away with that, given that it's, after all, North Korea, which is like the worst dictatorship anyone's ever managed to produce, which is really saying something, right? Because there's been some pretty bad dictatorships.
Still, we need a punchline still, but that's a premise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You need the punchline is what drives it home. And one of the things that I have found, I think that what I do on stage is most analogous to what stand-up comedians do. And the reason for that is that when I do a lecture, for example, or try to answer a question, there's usually an investigation, but it has to build up to a punchline. There has to be a culminating moment where it's driven home, and that's a moment of insight. And what it does is it takes a bunch of information that's sort of been scattered around and brings it together. And everybody goes, aha! And that's very much like the climax of a joke. And it's part of insight. And so there's a psychological literature on insight, and insight seems to develop when a number of things that weren't linked together are suddenly linked together. And you go, aha, that's how all that fits together. And I mean, comedians are doing that all the time, because
we're explaining the world, and sometimes we're explaining the world in ways that don't really make sense, but they're funny connections. I had one of the earlier jokes in my career that worked was, we were talking a lot about like the oppression of women. And I'm like, okay, maybe it'd be funny if I could find a justification for the oppression of women. So I said, the oppression of women is horrible. Countries that treat women horrible, that's just awful, but they have the best food. So my nobody's ever said, let's go out for a Canadian tonight. Right? So to me, that's like the more equal a country, the worse the food is. And then the more oppressive the country, the better. Like, I think one of the lines was, the more countries like stay in the kitchen, the better the food comes out of the kitchen. Now these are absurd concepts, but a really funny connectivity, right? I'm justifying something awful, but now all of a sudden everybody in the room is kind of agreeing like, holy shit. Like, I'm not a fan of Swedish food. I'm not a fan of, I really love hummus. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Norwegians eat fermented shark. Jesus, that's an argument against the equality of women right there. Fermented shark, man, that's just not a good idea. There's cans of that stuff. I think it's called surströmming. You can't fly on airplanes with cans of that because they explode. So that is not a food you should eat.
So to me, now I don't have the responsibility you have, which is to be truthful and right. So I can dabble in the wrong, and the wrong is so funny. But for me, like, I don't know, I just love this. I love the wrong. The wrong is great, and it allows us to explore ideas. Like, I got a boxing coach, right? And not for anything else other than exercise. I just love to do the sport, right? But and he's from Egypt, and he was speaking to me in Egyptian Arabic, and I thought that like curse words are a great way of organizing a society's hierarchy in values, like the different curse words that they use, right? And he was telling me, he'll call me different curse words. He called me mitnaka, right? Which means prostitute. Sorry. Mitnaka means slut, actually, for lack of a better word. And then he goes, sharmuta, he calls me, which means prostitute. He goes, now listen, outside of here, don't say mitnaka to anybody. That is a horrible word. Okay, you cannot say that. Do not, he's basically, don't call anybody a slut. He goes, you can call people sharmuta, that's not that bad. I go, wait, you're saying slut is worse than prostitute? And he goes, well, sometimes you have to for money, that makes sense. But just for pleasure, what is wrong with you? Go your boyfriend or something. And I thought it was like such a beautiful look into culture. You know what I'm saying? Like there are dire circumstances that made it more reasonable to have sex for money because you needed money to survive, maybe you needed to help your family, and that was forgiven culturally. In this, it was like understood. It was like, you don't want to do that, but at least you're doing it to support your family.
Yeah, well, the curse words always touch on taboos, right? And so taboos would be the worst thing in a society. In Quebec, all the curse words are church related.
Tabernacle.
Yeah, exactly. How do you know that? Why do you know that?
It's my job to know these things. Everything that you say can get you canceled for this or canceled at that. Nobody's just allowing it to just play. And I will give Trump credit in this regard.
Yeah.
He was just up there playing. Like, he didn't give a f***. He's like, I'm going to make fun of this guy for being short. I'm going to make fun of this person for killing everybody. I'm going to make fun of everybody on the stage. And people reacted to play. They also reacted to, like, him speaking on things that their fringe groups cared about. But there was an element of play.
Yeah, I was given a book, and unfortunately I didn't keep it, which was a big mistake, which was someone had published quite a beautiful book. It looked like a kind of a leather-bound library copy, a classic book. It was the collected poetry of Donald Trump. And what they had done was taken his tweets and turned them into poems, page after page. And I got to tell you, man, they were hilariously funny.
It's funny.
It was unbelievably funny. He's unbelievably caustically witty.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that was certainly one of his charming features. That ability to play.
Like Megyn Kelly, and shout out Megyn, I love Megyn, but Megyn Kelly goes, you've called women pigs and you've called women ogres or something like that. And he was like, just Rosie O'Donnell. That's a funny, playful thing to say on the world stage. You know what I mean? Calling what's-her-face Pocahontas is funny. Like, it exposed politics in a lot of way, because if somebody's having fun, that's infectious, especially if they're having fun around everyone else who is not. You've been at these stuffy dinners. I'm sure they invite you all the time. And there is a table that's laughing and goofing around and having, it is impossible not to look over at it. It's impossible not to see what's happening over. Where is this fun? And why are you guys having so much fun? You enjoy it? Like, world history, at least in America, is that like Germany was regular, and then all of a sudden one day they just started hating Jews, and then they were putting them in concentration camps. We don't get taught what Hitler used and Goebbels used to build up the resentment for the Jews. That's not really spoken about to us. So I think a lot of, when the Jews hear these things like they run the media, they run the banks, it's red flag. It goes, uh-oh, this is how it starts. It's happening. And then when non-Jews hear it, they go, well, those sound like some pretty cool stereotypes. I mean, Imagine someone like a black friend of mine who wears glasses even though he doesn't have a prescription, so people think he's less threatening when he's walking down the street. Imagine his reaction to hearing the stereotype, own the banks, run the media, own sports teams. He's going, give me those stereotypes right now, because he's unfamiliar with what those stereotypes lead to. So there's this huge chasm with understanding the hate of a group of people and how those things, which seem complementary, they seem fucking aspirational. Like, you want to be able to be in power positions, but because we haven't been taught that those are the things that first are said before you dehumanize a group of people and then kill 6 million of them.
Yeah, well, part of the problem with the discourse about the Jewish minority is that Jews are disproportionately successful for all sorts of reasons, and so that fact easily feeds into conspiratorial thinking, right? Partly because minorities are annoying, but they're not nearly as annoying when they're unsuccessful, because at least they can, what would you call, atone for the sin of being a minority by being oppressed and miserable. And so that's, a positive thing. Yeah. But if they're,
you're saying
successful, then they're really annoying. It's because not only are they a minority, but, it's easy to become envious. And then it's also easy to presume that it's some sort of conspiratorial practice on the part of that minority that's giving them an advantage over, you who's striving ahead so nobly.
You're giving a hypothetical to how the majority sees minorities, not how you see minorities.
Yes, I'm glad you picked that up. Yes. Very astute of you. Hopefully the listeners and watchers will have done the same thing.
I can see it clipped. Look, minorities are annoying, but especially the rich ones.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You can be sure the Young Turks are going to clip that out.
But yes. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I don't know. I just see it. I saw it kind of happening in real time. And
I'm planning to talk really to him soon, I think.
Say again?
I'm planning to talk to Kanye soon, I think.
And what are your thoughts about that? Have you had? Yeah, what is your thinking with that?
Well, I'd like to find out what's going on. I mean, he's a stunningly creative person, and he seems like a bit too much of a treasure just to throw in the dustbin.